Welcome in to another new podcast from the Association for Materials Protection and Performance. Of course, we're best known by the shorthand acronym of AMP. I'm Ben Dubose, your host, news editor with the AMP publications team. Today, we're taking a closer look at the upcoming AMP Eastern Conference and why this year's event is worth paying attention to. And I'll start by saying that this is not just another regional meeting. AMP is evolving how its conferences are structured, and the Eastern Conference is a key part of that shift by bringing a more focused, industry-driven conversation to the forefront. The theme this year is pipeline integrity, and if you've been following what's happening around energy infrastructure, that's aging assets, increasing electrical loads, regulatory pressures, workforce challenges, you know this isn't theoretical. It's operational, and it's happening now. So today, we're talking with the people who are shaping the event, ranging from technical leadership to the industry perspective, to the exhibit floor, to break down what's different, what matters, and why professionals across this industry, and not just in the Eastern region, should be paying attention. So let's get right to it. Today, we've got a distinguished panel featuring representatives from both AMP and the broader industry. Our panel includes Greg Alexander, Tim Gonzalez, Tish Edmondson, and Greg Muha. And rather than me simply reading off their bios, I figure it's better and more interactive if I let each of them do that. Greg, we can start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your role in shaping this AMP Eastern Conference. Greg Alexander, that is.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Greg Alexander. Currently, I'm serving as a business development rep for Audubon Companies. I'm also serving as the vice chair for the Eastern Conference this year. And it's a really exciting opportunity to do this, so I'm just glad to be a part of it.
And Tish, I'll pass it off to you.
Sure. Hey, y'all. I'm Tish Edmondson. I live in Georgia, but I travel all over the East Coast with Mesa Products. And I'm very excited to be part of this group. I serve on this team as well as some others. So been in the industry 20 years, and it's been an amazing set of folks to go to work with.
And now our two representatives from staff. Tim, we can start with you.
Hi, thank you, Ben. Tim Gonzalez, I'm the Vice President of Energy Integrity Solutions here at AMP. My role is really focusing on different regulatory issues and issues that are impacting the industry and how AMP has helped to provide solutions for that. My role here with the Eastern Conference is really to bring that to the conference and bring information from the regulator side as well as the operator sides on what the industry is facing.
And finally, our second Greg Muha. What's your role with AMP?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Glad to be with you. I'm the Director of Conferences, Exhibits, and Sponsorships at AMP. And so the team that I lead is responsible for working with our member leaders and our volunteers to help bring these events to life. So we take a lot of the strategy that's coming from our board of directors. Looking forward to talking more about that today.
Absolutely. Greg Alexander, let's spin this back to you. As far as this year's AMP Eastern Conference, what's different about this version relative to previous iterations, not just in format, but in its purpose?
Yeah, Ben, as we think about the Eastern Area Conference, the focus this year is going to be on pipeline integrity. In the past, the conferences seem to be including a lot of different items and stuff, but the effort this year is to try to focus in on pipeline integrity and the different aspects of the different parts of the, presentations and stuff and how it affects pipeline integrity. So in other words, what kind of things are we dealing with? What kind of materials and stuff can really help or tools can help? So it's going to be about pipeline integrity. And I think by doing that, this will provide opportunities for people from all over the country to be able to participate and get something from it.
And Tim, the theme of this event, pipeline integrity, that's right in the wheelhouse of your market vertical that you're tasked with leading. Why is this the right focus? Why is this the right time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. I think this is the right time because the pipeline industry is facing a lot of different challenges right now. We have a lot of pipeline that is operating a lot longer than what it was originally intended to last. Also, we have other challenges like they're building pipelines that are really close to other assets like high voltage transmission lines that are causing AC interference. We have the mega rule that's impacting us. Also, in AMP's recent industry study, corrosion still plays a major role in the number of incidents that are caused in pipelines. I think corrosion's listed as number 2. And so there's a lot of different transitions, and especially right now with pipelines transitioning into hydrogen and carbon capture. So there's a lot of pressing issues that are going on in the industry right now, where this is a great time to really have something focused on the industry itself and what the challenges are.
Greg, as someone involved in putting together the technical program and establishing the value of the content, what are the real world problems that you all are trying to help solve? Because I know at this type of event and what its unique value proposition is in 2026, you're not looking to just discuss these things. You want action. You want solutions to be presented. So what are the real world problems that you're hoping to address this year?
Tim just mentioned several of them, and I appreciate that because as you think about pipeline integrity and so forth, I've been in this business for 40 years and things have changed dramatically through the years. Technology, the way the pipelines are being installed, the way the coating's been done, power lines, we're sharing more and more right-of-ways with power lines and so forth. So we're having to deal with how to identify the issues on the pipe. So, hopefully we'll find out about more technologies that are out there and help us to identify those locations we might be having issues with the pipe, corrosion or even stress corrosion cracking that may be occurring or whatever. So there's a lot of different things we're experiencing on our pipelines today that I really hope that it can help us address and to even train some of the newer people in this industry. I hope that also is part of it. Some of these people are coming into the industry. This might be new to them, so it gives them an opportunity to actually learn something because that's part of this too.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned people. When it comes to, putting together this technical program and making sure what's, those things that you just described that are happening out in the field are actually reflected in the program, who are the types of people that should be submitting an abstract? And what are the types of people who maybe don't even realize that they've got something valuable that they can contribute? Just speak to the types of people that can be value adds from a presenter perspective.
Oh, that's great too. Because I sit and think about that. If you look at the different things that we're dealing with, okay, we need people who have experienced these things in the field and what have they done about them themselves. So we need operators who are experienced with this pipeline integrity and what they've done to address some of these issues. So, AC mitigation and AC that's really affecting the pipe. How are they even doing the surveys or what kind of tools are they using to also need some people who have got some new technology maybe that they've developed to come to us and share what they've come up with and some ideas about how to address the different issues that we're dealing with. Again, when you think about pipeline integrity, I think of the external corrosion direct assessments and internal corrosion direct assessments and stress corrosion cracking. So we need people who have dealt with all of those items to come to us and help us to understand what they've done and the new tools that are out there that they can deliver to us or help us to experience and walk away with some more knowledge about them.
Tim, from an industry perspective, you're our staff SME. You're the subject matter expert that knows better than any of us what's going on out in the field. From your vantage point, what are the most pressing pipeline integrity challenges right now in 2026?
Thank you, Ben. I think Greg covered some of them, but reconductoring is a major, major issue that the industry is facing right now. And that is the pipelines that share the same right of way with new power lines that are getting updated to carry more high voltage transmission. And that's causing interference or AC interference with the cloud protected systems that are operating underneath that. That's probably one of the biggest pressing challenges that the industry is facing right now. But there's also workforce challenges. There's a shortage of experienced professionals in all aspects of pipeline integrity, not just in the corrosion inspection and application of coatings, but in all aspects of the pipeline. And I also think as we're evolving as an industry into new technologies, and Greg had mentioned, how new technologies are impacting us. There's a big surge of data that's coming in, and there's not a lack of data, but the question is, how do we utilize that data? How do we really take that information and make parameters or really help with our pipeline integrity? And so I think it's about consistency also with standards usage. There's a lot of different proven standards that exist, a lot of AMP standards that are being utilized, but it's the proper application of those standards. But to go back to the original question, I think it's going to be AC interference, new technologies and how we use them, new usage of pipelines like hydrogen and carbon capture, the aging infrastructure that's operating a lot longer than what it was intended to use, and then of course corrosion playing a major impact and factor into that.
And those factors you mentioned, like the workforce, the standards, the technology, the coordination required between multiple entities, where do you see the biggest gaps and what are the areas or what are the strategies that we can use to address those?
Well, I'll start with coordination. I think the biggest gap within coordination is with the different asset owners. We have the power companies and the pipeline companies. We're really working with the industry to help provide that coordination where the power line companies are able to inform the pipeline company that share the same right of way of the reconductoring that's happening. So we're really working across the industry, working with other groups and other associations, working with the regulators to help provide that atmosphere, that environment, to help provide that kind of coordination. Workforce, yeah, I mean, workforce has been a big challenge for us as we see changes happening across the field. We're really working and striving to provide different courses throughout all over the world to help ensure that we're working with the operators, the EPC companies, the contractors, helping to ensure that we're providing a good workforce that's experienced, that has the knowledge and the capabilities, and has been verified to do that kind of work. So yeah, I believe those are some of the biggest challenges that we're focusing on.
You mentioned things like reconductoring, the increased electrical loads, data integration. How are those factors changing the risk landscape in 2026?
Yeah, I think it goes back to why we have reconductoring. You know, there's an influx with electric vehicles being on the roadways. There's a lot of different data centers that are being built, and new proposed data centers that are being built that require electricity 24/7 every day of the year. And because of this major load of electricity dependence, we're seeing the transition of power lines getting updated, and that's causing AC interference with the pipelines that are sharing those same right of ways. The impact that that can have is major. We can have disasters. We can have explosions or leaks. It's a big issue that we're facing. And I think as long as we're coordinating and working together, not just with the regulators, but with the industry, with the pipeline companies, with the contractors, with the power line companies, and really coordinating an effort together to really help the communication, take a look at the Pipes Act, the Rewire Act, the Surge Act. How do we all comes together and play so that way we ensure that everybody's working in a safe environment?
I want to turn our attention to exhibitors and sponsors. And Tish, I'll bring you in on this. Who are the folks that are actually going to be walking the exhibit floor? And ultimately, why does that matter for a company?
Sure. I think Greg and Tim actually mentioned a lot of them. So first and foremost, we're hoping the operators and asset owners and pipeline utilities, terminals, we want all of them, right? We're also going to have some engineers, some corrosion specialists. They're going to be solving the real-time problems. And they're the ones who influence who gets approved. And then, of course, our contractors, the ones who install everything. So we are going to hope for a good mix. And then all these people, most of the time, they are looking for vendors to that they're going to trust with their projects and their bids, and looking for solutions.
These days, there are so many digital marketing opportunities, but I know at an event like this in Myrtle Beach, there are some things they can do physically on site that can't be replicated in a digital format. So, for companies considering exhibiting or sponsoring, what are some of those things that on the ground are going to be unique opportunities that can't be replicated digitally?
So anyone who knows me knows that I am a believer of digital marketing. So when you go to a big conference like this, you're not marketing to the masses, right? You're standing in front of the exact people who decide what gets used in the ground. Digital does get attention, but the exhibit floor is where it happens. In this industry, relationships are everything. So when you show up physically, you get to see, these people in real time. You get to read their body language. You can physically show your products. So it's building these relationships face to face that's the most important.
And then for the companies that do attend, what is it that separates the companies that simply show up? That's obviously the first step from those that actually get true value, the most value out of exhibiting. What does going the extra mile look like to make sure that they're getting the most value they can out of exhibiting?
That's a good question. So when you walk the floor as just a vendor without your booth, you're sometimes on the outside looking in. You're trying to catch people between conversations. You're competing for attention for the ones who are there exhibiting. And, we're in the South. We'll take you. If you've never been to an Eastern area, come on in. Get your feet wet with it. I think once you do see it, you're going to see who's in the room, what conversations are happening, and where your company fits in. But if you do decide to get a booth, you create your home base where your conversations come to you, where you're more approachable, you get longer, more meaningful conversations, and your brand is visible all day, not just when you're walking down the hall. So showing up is easy, but showing up with intention is what wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, I'll bring you in, Greg Muha, that is, on that point, because you're tasked with leading really all of AMP's events, the annual flagship show, which just took place in March in Houston. Obviously, we've got other area events, Central Conference, Western Conference. How does this event, the Eastern Conference in Myrtle Beach, fit in with the broader conference strategy that we've got at AMP, both now and into the future? How does this work within the broader mission?
Yeah, so the Eastern Area Conference has been one that's been successful for such a long time. So many wonderful volunteers like the ones that we're talking to today, and Greg and Tish, and a host of others who have just really been behind this type of event. And it starts really, I think, what I was talking about a little earlier with our board of directors and our senior member leaders who, they're talking to the folks out in the areas and the chapters, getting an understanding of what's of most interest to them. And so the market verticals came about as part of that. And then everything kind of feeds on down. So I feel like that, things are much more integrated in the approach. And so what we've been trying to do on the conferences side with that is to find where is that most amount of value. A big part of the focus on the going into the market verticals was, we can't be all things to all people, but let's focus on the things that are most important to our members and do it well. And so when you try to do that, you want to make sure that there is that focus and that, you're zoned in on what is going to bring that most value, what's going to make you be able to be most agile and nimble to pivot. If, Tim and Greg both talked about a lot of the technologies that are important. Some of these, they don't just, it's not like a long tail. Some of them pop up overnight and you might be planning to have discussions that, this thing that popped up overnight wasn't even on your radar, and you got to be able to pivot to add it in. By having these strategic themes, that's what that really allows for, is that as things pop up, we can bring it in the moment. We try to leave little sessions and everything that we do for these, what we call in the moment sessions, to be able to work those in. But ultimately, the area conferences are a big part of the overall strategy for us in conferences. We want to bring the AMP experience to the local attendees. We found that not everybody can get approval to go to the AMP annual conference. So sometimes an area event is the only face-to-face live interaction that our members will be able to have with us. So we want to work and do the best we can to bring those elements to the people in the local areas that they're living in.
I asked Greg Alexander about what's different with the 2026 AMP Eastern Conference compared to past formats and iterations of the show. And Greg, from an events perspective, I want to ask that same question to you. What are you
Yeah.
all intentionally doing differently this year with this event relative to any of the past iterations?
So I think one of the strongest elements of our area conferences in the past that just really stood out to me from day one is the community. A lot of the networking, the relationships. Tish talked a bit about that. That's very, very evident. But I would go into some of the session rooms, and it was about a 30% overlap of the content was at Eastern and at Central and at Western. And so to some degree, if you went to one area conference, you almost went to all of them. And so some of the session rooms weren't maybe as full as they could have been. And, people were putting in a lot of hard work to put the presentation together. So we wanted to help bring some of that focus that I talked about earlier that, really came from the board on down and come up with these strategic themes that would be relevant in the different areas. And if you take pipeline integrity as an example of that, for the Eastern area, there's going to be issues tied to pipeline integrity that are going to be really unique to the Eastern area. If you take that same topic to the Central area or the Western area, there might be other dynamics that are going to change. So a pipeline integrity type focus could look very different in the East versus Central and versus the West. So we're working with, we have a resource on our team now, Stephanie Chiswick, who's our senior manager of conference program development. We didn't have that resource only a little over a year now, almost 2 years. And, she's working with the committees. We didn't have that before. So there was just a lot of rinse and repeat, a lot of overlap. And what Stephanie's able to do is really sit down with the people that are involved in our research activities, our standards development activities, our technical communities of interest that are focused on a lot of different areas. She's able to look at what our education and certification colleagues are doing, and then kind of coalesce all that information, bring it in, take it to the areas and say, hey, here's what we're hearing across the organization, and really be able to dive into themes that are going to put us in the best chance for having success.
And turning back to Greg Alexander, from a development perspective, when it comes to putting together the technical program, I know you do want to speak to issues in the Eastern region, but you also want this to be potentially applicable and useful for folks outside of the Eastern region. So how do you all put together a program that certainly has issues and themes related to people in that region, but also has value that extends beyond that?
Yeah, Ben, I appreciate that because as I sit and think about that again, I've been in this industry for 40 years. Most of that time was in operations, working for operators and so forth. But I jumped over and did consulting for 6 years, then back into operations. And, when I was working for an operator in Indiana, I always felt like we did everything fantastic. It was really good. We did everything right. But then as a consulting, working for people, operators all over the country, I realized, you know what? We were doing a lot of things well, but sometimes you learn, oh, I hadn't even thought about that issue or how to do it that way and so forth. So I think by opening it up and making sure that people are welcome and encouraged to participate from all over the United States, not just the Eastern area, you have an opportunity to experience and teach and learn about those different technologies or the way things are done and so forth from other areas. So somebody coming from the Central or from the West coming in, they may learn something that we've done here in the East that, hey, we never considered that before. Thus, we can take it to their area to use. So, yeah, it could be a misconception. It's just always the Eastern area, or just in some cases, I know that some have even said that in the past that, oh, well, the Carolina section is putting on, it's just for the Carolina section. No, this is for the Eastern area. This is for the United States, or even somebody wants to come in from the globe. You're more than welcome to come in and learn, because we can learn from each other, and we can use those experiences to really improve our pipeline integrity and our operations and just make it more of a safe operation as we think about our pipelines. That's the whole objective. We want a safe operation. We want people to know that we're delivering those products safely and that it's a good product to use. So that's what we're trying to do, and I would encourage people to know that they can come in.
Tim, I mentioned earlier that you're basically our staff SME for pipeline integrity, which is the theme of this event. Energy integrity solutions is in your title. So in many ways, you're the bridge between us on staff at AMP and the key players out in the field that are, executing these projects and making some of the key decisions. So, Tim, in terms of the connections and the conversations, what are the things that can happen at a conference like this, the AMP Eastern Area Conference, that don't occur at some of the larger, more generalized events? Clearly there's a role for the flagship AMP annual conference and expo, but I know that the connections, the conversations, the relationships, it's a little bit different at a conference like the AMP Eastern. What's the unique value proposition from a relationship building standpoint?
Well, I think the Eastern Conference has a unique opportunity. The AMP flagship event really focuses on a variety of industries, whether that's maritime or civil or energy. It focuses on all different types of assets. But with the with the pipeline conference happening in the Eastern Conference, it really provides a focus where individuals can come in. And although, yes, the Eastern Conference has their own environment and probably face some different types of problems or challenges, but some of these challenges are the same all across the world. Reconductoring is happening all across the world. Corrosion is happening. The use of pipelines and hydrogen, ammonia, all this is impacting all across the world. These are all happening. And it's a unique opportunity because it gives individuals the opportunity to come to a conference where it's specific on pipeline integrity. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to come and listen to all the other different types of topics that you may not be necessarily needing to listen to. But this gives you an opportunity to meet with individuals that have and can share their expertise on what they know and how it's been impacting their assets, and maybe be able to learn how you can better operate in a safe environment. I think the Eastern Conference is not just for the East. It's not just for the United States. It's a global event that is really opening the doors for everybody to help do what we're trying to do, which is to provide reliability, sustainability, and a safe environment for everybody that lives in and around these assets. So I think the Eastern Conference has a really good opportunity to really give people the ability to meet with other like-minded individuals, to share their expertise, to gain insights on what's happening in the industry, to gain knowledge of what's coming, the new technologies that are out there, what the new standards are out there, what's been happening in the industry, and how they can better operate in the future.
And as we wind down, Greg Alexander, I'll turn back to you. If someone listening today is going to take one action immediately upon listening to this pod, what should it be? Where should they start in terms of getting involved with this show?
Yeah, it's really exciting to think about this conference again. One thing, if you're an operator, you can do a presentation. We want you to submit your abstract. If you're a vendor and you've got new technology or something that you've experienced that you'd like to share, submit your abstract, get signed up, get registered, get ready to go. And if you want to interact with your clients or your potential clients, man, Tish is the lady here. She can help you. Myrtle Beach is a golf area of the world, I think. If you want to go golfing, have a great time with your clients, this is the place to do it. But get signed up, get your abstract sent in, and participate. We've got AMP staff that has really jumped in and doing an excellent job helping us out, supporting this. So I want you to know that we're here. We want it to be a great conference, and it can only be a great conference if you jump in and participate.
And then the final question, and I'll leave this open-ended. Any of you can grab it. What's at stake if industry professionals don't engage in these types of conversations that we've been describing? If that doesn't happen in 2026, what's on the line? Why is it so important to be engaging in these types of conversations right now?
I'll touch on it a little bit. I think 2026 in particular with the United States has a unique opportunity to really focus on reconductoring. There's a lot of different things that are happening at the regulation side, but there's reconductoring is happening at a fast rate, and it's just happening faster and faster every day. We hear about new projects happening. If you're missing out on this event, you miss out on what's happening out in the industry, what the industry is doing to help the pipeline industry address the issue of reconductoring, what studies have been done, what data has been collected to help address this issue. So you're missing out on a lot of learning opportunities, also networking opportunities that will help you solve some of the issues of tomorrow.
And I would just I would
Go
just
ahead.
add to that. I think one of the challenges in our world today is, digital technologies are great. They have a purpose. But the one thing about conferences and events, it's one of the few things where a live event, if you're not there, you miss out. You could capture some video recordings and audio or whatnot, but some of the things that happen that you just have to be there for, there's no other product area within AMP that has that kind of, well, maybe education. The training courses, you could take them online as well, but some of them you have to be there in person to be able to get what you really want to take out of it. And same thing with these conferences and events. So I think if you're not there, you could watch a recording, you could get a transcript, you could get a synopsis of something that comes in. But if you're not there and you're not in the room, you're missing out. And when you're not there, that means somebody else is there, and it might be your competitor that's having the conversation that you want to be having.
All right, great insight from our panelists today. Greg, Tish, Tim, and Greg, thank you all so much for the time. And with that, I think we can put a bow on this podcast previewing the upcoming 2026 AMP Eastern Conference, which is taking place from October the 19th through the 21st in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you want more information beyond what we've discussed today, just go to amp.org/events. All right, so with that, I think we can adjourn. As always, we appreciate all of you out there listening. And of course, come back soon for more new podcasts from AMP, including a look at other area events on the docket, such as the Central Conference and the Western Conference, which will also happen later this year. For now, just visit amp.org/events for all the information that we have as of now, and go to amp.org/podcast for the latest episodes as they come out. Okay, that will do it for today. Again, thanks so much for listening, and please come back soon for more new podcasts from AMP.